Hello, everyone. Thank you all for tuning into the Mayor's Pre-Summit Conversation Series. I'm Diane Henson, the owner and founder of Creative Family Connections. I'm here with Jennifer McGill, the Director of Legal Services and Gestational Surrogacy. On September 15 and 16, Mayor Bowser will host the 4th National Maternal and Infant Health Summit, and we're excited to highlight the importance of fertility equality with our Surrogacy Path to Parenthood seminar. For more information about the summit and to register, please visit dcmaternalhealth.com. This year, the mayor has expanded the summit to include a focus on LGBTQ+ parenting options, and that's why we're here, to highlight the importance of fertility equality as we explore surrogacy and other third-party options to parenthood. I founded Creative Family Connections 20 years ago on the principle that everyone can build a family. We are located right in the DC area, and we are both a surrogacy agency and a law firm. Advocating for the rights of the LGBTQ community has been a passion of ours from day one. We have partnered with organizations like Rainbow Families of DC, HRC, Family Equality, Men Having Babies, and Resolve to fight for legislation that permits the LGBTQ community to become parents and to be recognized as the sole legal parents. In fact, I personally drafted a lot of the DC gestational surrogacy statute that became law in 2017. We're hoping that today's seminar brings hope and encouragement to prospective parents who need assisted reproductive technology to build a family. Our message is, your dream of becoming a parent is possible, and it can be done right here in the district. We also hope that women who are able to make that dream come true by carrying the baby realize that surrogacy is lawful in the district, and we hope you will come forward to apply to be a surrogate. So let's back up for a minute. And then I will get to our other guests who are sitting here as participants. First, what is assisted reproductive technology? So, assisted reproductive technology involves a doctor, specialist, removing eggs from a woman's ovary, combining them with sperm in the laboratory, and then either returning them to that woman's uterus, which is the IVF part, or transferring them to a third woman's uterus, which then gives us gestational surrogacy. Now, you might need a number of entities' assistance for this process, especially for gestational surrogacy. There's the agency. As I said, that's one of the things we are. The agency finds and matches the intended parents to a surrogate and makes that match. The agency also supports the parents and the surrogate throughout the journey. And the stronger the vetting process of the surrogate candidate and the more support the agency offers, the better an agency it is. You're also going to need lawyers in this process. The lawyers might be part of the agency. As I mentioned, we're an integrated agency and law firm, but they're often individuals that you're going to need to retain separately if the agency does not have attorneys. And importantly, both the parents and the surrogate each need their own legal counsel. And then there's the IVF clinic, the medical professionals who harvest the egg, create the embryo, and then transfer it to the recipient, in this case, the surrogate, and then they'll freeze extra embryos for use later down the road. Okay, so who are the individual parties? First, you have the intended parents. We have 2 intended parents with us today, Gaurav Mathur and Gaurav Arora. So it could be a couple like them. It could be a single parent. The couple could be straight or it could be same sex. If the couple is straight, they could be using their own egg and sperm, or they might need an egg donor. Occasionally, they might even need a sperm donor. If a donor is needed, a third-party donor. You could have a known donor, the sister perhaps. It could be an open donation where they get to meet the donor after they're matched, have contact down the road. It could be semi-open where they might find out information, might meet her on a first name basis, be open to contact later. Or it could be what's called anonymous. And I say called because there's some question as to whether in this day and age of 23andMe and Ancestry.com, any donation or donor is going to stay anonymous in the long run. And then of course we have the gestational surrogate, also referred to as a surrogate or a gestational carrier in our legal documents. But when I refer to that today, what's referred to a surrogate, I mean a gestational surrogate. And that really means the surrogate is not using her own eggs. She's not genetically related. And so we have with us Anna, who is one of our surrogates who's completed a journey, and we'll get to hear from her in a little bit. So you are going to hear today from both of these participants. We're very happy that they are with us. Anna was our very first DC surrogate who was able to do this once the statute passed and made it legal. And Gaurav and Gaurav are a same-sex couple who live and work in the district and work with a surrogate to build their family. Gaurav and Gaurav are a dean and professor respectively at Gallaudet University. So if you can unmute your microphone, could you tell us what was it like to meet your surrogate, Kara, for the first time?
So actually, Gaurav and I were on vacation when we first got word from CFC that a potential surrogate for us had been identified. So we got the email on the last day of our vacation, and we were just so excited. It was the perfect way to end our trip. It was such an exciting piece of news to get. So we went to meet our gestational carrier. Again, her name is Kara, and we met her at the CFC office. And we also met Kara's husband as well, Rick, and we just felt really low key. Honestly, the energy was such a great fit between all of us. The two of them had such a low key vibe to them that it gave us a really good feeling. And we felt a connection right away. Gaurav?
I think I agree with what Gaurav has said. Gaurav Mathur has said, just to be clear, it's Gaurav Mathur and Gaurav Arora. One thing I clearly remember at that first meeting, I connected with Kara and Rick. We started talking about the TV show, The Office, and the fact that, we just loved all the characters. I loved it because Gaurav doesn't like the show. He doesn't, you do? Okay.
I do like it.
But I watch it more often. So that's when I felt the connection, We started talking about The Office, and that's how, it was, like he said, it was low key, and it just happened naturally, the connections. We didn't try to connect, but it just happened, organically. So that's what my first memory of our first meeting was, The Office,
That's great. That's great. And then what was it like to share the pregnancy with her?
Okay, so that was a challenge. I think the transfer happened on Feb 7th, and March 6th, we met often after that. And I think end of Feb, we were told the due date was October 25th. And then COVID was coming slowly to the US and to America. And March 16th was the last time we met her in person. Because March 16th, yeah, because that, yeah, right. Yeah, it was my birthday.
Right, on your
16th.
birthday.
Yeah, that was the last time we met her. And she told us that, look, I don't know what's going to happen now from this point onwards, but just trust me, I'm going to take care of this baby, which is growing inside me. And so we were like, okay, fine, there's nothing we can do, and we have to trust, And we, after that, one thing what we did was every time she would go to the doctor, we weren't allowed to be there at the clinic. So we would FaceTime with her and, make sure that everything was fine. And then, do you want to talk about what they did for us in June?
Oh, yes. I was so moved and so impressed with how hard Kara tried to include both of us in every visit to the doctor. So she went for her regular checkups periodically according to schedule, and she always called us on FaceTime, always showed us everything that was happening, showed us the nurse and the doctors, showed us the ultrasound screen so we could watch that as in real time. And then whenever they printed out the ultrasound or sonogram paper, she would send those to us. And one day I was so surprised and so touched that around Father's Day, she sent us a surprise package that included the printout from the sonogram and a video of it. And she included a framed still image of the clearest image of the baby that was at that appointment. And we still have it in our bedroom upstairs. And not only that, she also included a book. It's a children's book called My First Signs. It meant so much to the two of us. She was so thoughtful. I just could not imagine a more warm and genuine gestational experience.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, COVID definitely presented challenges, extra challenges for all of us. So I'm glad you had such a wonderful surrogate to help you navigate that. And of course, we were there as well with you. So you are starting a sibling journey with Kara. Is there anything you will do differently this time on your second journey?
Be there. Try to be there.
Right, of course, try to be there in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we really are also fortunate that Kara lives pretty close to us. I mean, your surrogate sometimes can be in an entirely different state. And we were prepared for the possibility of flying to another state from time to time. But as it turned out, she only lives about a 3-hour drive from us. And if it weren't for COVID, the two of us would have been willing to make all of those trips out to the doctor appointments every time. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that we would like to do different this time around is make those trips and go in person. And mm-hmm. we'd also like to see her more in person. So we'd like to make that happen.
Absolutely. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. So there are probably some prospective parents out there listening. Do you recommend surrogacy to prospective parents who want to become parents but may need surrogacy to build their families?
I've actually thought about this question, and really, I think every parent's journey is so different. What worked for us might not work for someone else. So I think that every parent or potential parent needs to decide for themselves what works best for them, because everyone's situation is different. So for example, Gaurav and I did consider adoption as another possibility for building our family. And then we decided to go the route of surrogacy because we wanted that biological connection to the child. What other reasons would you say we went with the surrogacy option?
I think retrospectively, what had happened, we did go in, I think it was April 2016 when we actually thought about adoption. But what didn't work for us there and work with surrogacy was the gut feeling. You know, when you start something big in your life, you have to trust your gut. And for some reason, for me and for Gaurav, the adoption route, my gut feeling said, maybe that's not for us. Maybe it's for the parents, and that's fine, right? And when we went to met you all at CFC, our gut said that, this is the right thing to do. So that's why, we picked that. And I may add that after our journey, we've got two other Indian gay couples who've contacted us about some questions, and I've told them the same thing, that go with your gut feeling. Whatever you feel, just trust your gut. So that's what I think worked for us.
Yeah, I think trusting your gut is always a really, really good thing. Sorry, Gaurav, you had something to say too?
I did. Yeah, the following your gut definitely is our advice to any prospective parent, because when we started the journey, you have to navigate so many different agencies. So first there was the choice of which agency to work with the surrogate, and then also choosing the IVF clinic as well. So we had to do several interviews for that. We also interviewed several egg donation agencies as well, 3 different ones. So there's so many decisions that you have to make for each component of the process. And I think that following our gut feeling is really what helped us guide us through this entire journey.
That's great. And you ended up with a wonderful baby, Taryn, who's no longer a baby, and a wonderful surrogate. And I know I told you to follow your gut when we sent you that package. And so I'm glad it's worked out. I never call it a happy ending because it's really a happy beginning. So I'm going to turn it over. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your insights. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen now. And Jen, you can either ask Anna her questions or talk a little bit about the law first. So yeah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think we should stay with the fun part of this.
Okay.
So Anna is our first ever surrogate from the district following the adoption of the Collaborative Reproductive Act. Her first journey, she was caring for a straight couple, and now she's starting a second surrogacy journey with a same-sex couple from the district. So Anna, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Welcome.
Can you tell us a little why you decided to become a surrogate in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of had this like weird sense that it was something I always knew it was something I would do. It almost kind of started as like a family joke. I have an older sister who is like grossed out and can't handle anything medical. And so even from, junior high and high school, we would say like, oh, well, I'll have your babies for you. So it's just something, that we had talked about within our family. And she ended up having her own children and had successful pregnancies and all of that. But ever since then, it was just something I had thought about and I kept in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to do. And then I had a very successful, very easy pregnancy with my son, who's now 4. And, I kind of laugh and say that I blinked an eye and I was 40 weeks pregnant. It was the easiest thing in the world for me to be pregnant. And I just felt like it wasn't a lot for me to do, to my body and for my family to have such a huge impact and be able to help another family in such a meaningful way. So I got to DC and I started to think about the timing and what was going to work right, in my life and in my family's life. And was disappointed to find that being a resident of DC, it didn't seem like I was going to be able to be a surrogate. And then soon thereafter, the laws changed. So almost right after I found that out, I reached out, kind of started looking up different agencies, saw that CFC was local to me at the time, and I liked that. It ended up not being a big deal. I never went to the offices. Nothing ever really happened locally, mostly probably because of COVID. But I just liked the idea of that being local. And so that's ultimately why I went with CFC, and it was a great experience.
So what made you want to do it a second time?
It just came down to what I could do to help someone else. I will literally do anything in the world for another human. I've given away my last dollar. I've driven 8 hours to help someone that needed, a ride somewhere. I'll do anything for anyone. And this just felt like another thing that I could do.
What was it like to be a surrogate?
It was really cool. It was a really interesting experience. I've always kind of had the idea of like, you have to take opportunities as they come, or it ends up being a potential regret that you had. So I looked at this as something, I had the opportunity to do it. It worked out. You know, as like check marks came along, I kept kind of passing the next test. So I just kept, you know, going along with the process. My pregnancy was totally uncomplicated. I had a great experience with the family that the intended parents at the time, and I'm building another great relationship with the current intended parents of this current journey. It's been a great experience.
What was it like to meet either one of those intended parents? How did it feel?
Yeah, it was really cool. There's a lot that happens before that time comes. So, you know, I applied and I had some interviews and I do the home visit. And at one point, you know, you do the medical screening, and it was cool to see them and see that I was doing all of this for people that had a face and for people that, you know, wanted to add to their family. But again, COVID made that a little bit tougher. I did actually meet them in person. My transfer was similar. It was March 18th. So I think I was close to one of the last, you know, transfers before they kind of shut down any kind of those reproductive types of surgeries or whatever the case is. So COVID made it difficult, but actually, again, the family was local and they actually were able to come to my appointments for most of my pregnancy. So that made it really easy. I was keeping in touch with them. I saw the mother, you know, every couple of months at the least. It was just so cool. It just made it this real thing that I was doing, when for so long it was just kind of this idea that I was going through the steps, and then all of a sudden there was a real face and a real family behind what I was doing.
Obviously, you were navigating COVID through your entire surrogacy.
Mhm.
What was your favorite part, though?
It had to have been like, so in that, at that time, actually, I was able to have the mother in the delivery room with me. My husband and the mother were there. So when he was born and, you know, she held her baby, there's not another moment that will ever be anything like that in my life. It was an incredible thing. And it was just something that I felt like, you know, doesn't happen that often. And it was really important for me that she held him first and she cut his umbilical cord. And I just couldn't imagine. And, you know, it felt like COVID almost took that away from us, that had she not been able to be there, and then, you know, they just take the baby and then deliver him in a different room, that felt really hard for me. And it was really important, and it worked out beautifully that, you know, she got to be there and I got to kind of witness that moment of when she had her son. So it was really cool. And she does have a husband and he was involved, but everything was just one extra person. So had it been a normal year, he would have been there as well. And that's what we all wanted, and it just wasn't possible.
And I had a feeling you were going to mention the delivery process is your favorite part of the journey, and that's beautiful. And at the same time, we got our perfect cameo of the new parents and their sweet little son there as well.
Oh.
Anna, do you think you would recommend someone that's thinking about being a surrogate work with a surrogacy agency?
Totally.
Why? Why do you think?
I just don't know how you do it otherwise. You know, like I said, it kind of started within the family, and I truly meant that if my sister needed me to have her babies for her, I absolutely would have. But outside of that circumstance, I just don't know. I wouldn't have known the process. I wouldn't have known what steps to take. I didn't know how to find a family that needed me to be a part of their process. And I just feel every single step, I just feel like I'm not working hard. It's not difficult for me in any way. I literally do what someone tells me to do. I show up to appointments that I need to be, and that's it. And I just don't know that I could navigate that any other way.
What would you say to someone that's thinking about becoming a surrogate?
I think you really have to make sure it works for you and your family. For me, I had no doubt that it was something that my husband and my extended family would support me through. My husband at first thought, this seems kind of weird, but he's open to finding out more and seeing what that process was like. I think if, being pregnant is something that some, a potential surrogate enjoys, then I think that makes it a lot easier. And I think you really have to just think about how you're going to, communicate this to other important people in your life, and make sure that if that support is there, and that's what made it easy for me. And I think, for me, it came up a lot. And I think there's kind of this notion that, oh, I could never give it away, or how do you form this emotional attachment and then just leave the hospital without this baby? And for me, that just was it never felt that way, because from the beginning, it wasn't a baby that was meant to join our family. It wasn't meant for us. And we just had to frame it and think about it and prepare emotionally for it in that sense. If you're able to do that, and you're able to, enjoy the being pregnant and enjoy the journey, then I would say absolutely. I mean, in what other world can you bless a family and do something that just changes someone's lives in such a meaningful way?
And I think that's a beautiful way to end your questions. Thank you so much for providing that insight, and hopefully you inspire some new prospective parents to come forward to surrogacy, and maybe that special woman to carry for someone in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do this, and for making it so easy for me along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah. So Jen, if you can talk about this law that's now in force in DC, we have about 5 minutes, I'd say, to do that. That would be great, because we're so excited that we finally have a good law. We do a happy dance here at CFC when we turn what we call a red light jurisdiction to green light. So take it away.
I'd be happy to. So as Diane and Anna alluded to, DC went from being one of the worst surrogacy places in the country, where surrogacy agreements were criminal and participating in surrogacy could actually get you some jail time, to becoming one of the best places for surrogacy. So in April 2017, it enacted the DC Law 210255, also known as the Collaborative Reproductive Act. We were very fortunate to be one of the law firms that worked to change this law. And in fact, we obtained one of the very first parentage orders, and it just happened to be for a same-sex couple. In a nutshell, the law made surrogacy lawful, and it opened a path for intended parents to become legal parents through gestational surrogacy, through surrogacy, excuse me, regardless of genetics, so long as they comply with the code. And the code established some best practices. So the code created basic parameters for intended parents and surrogates, which included things like all parties have to be 21. They have to engage in a legal agreement. For the surrogate, specifically, some things like she had to have given birth at least one time prior, and that she had to undergo medical and psychological screening. The code also established certain requirements for the surrogacy agreement, like everyone needing independent counsel, responsibility for costs, and it established a dispute resolution section. The code outlines how to obtain parentage, whereby intended parents can file parentage pleadings in the DC Superior Court anytime after confirmation of pregnancy and before birth, so long as either they or their surrogate resides in the district for the requisite amount of time, or even after birth if the child's born in the district. The parentage order will also direct the issuance of the child's birth certificate, and that means your names go onto the birth certificate as the parents. You might ask why a parentage order is important. A parentage order gives parents parental rights, and it relieves the surrogate of any presumed parental rights or obligations. What's really great about DC is that it doesn't matter the genetics. So an intended parent does not have to provide their own egg or sperm to be a parent. They just have to intend to raise the child as parents. If you're thinking about trying to rely on a birth certificate, please think twice. Birth certificates are only an administrative document. They do not establish enforceable custody or parental obligations, but a court order does. And a court order will be honored by other states through a process called full faith and credit. This is what you need if a relationship falls apart or if a party moves out of state. So why does a parentage order matter at birth? Think about it. A woman gives birth at the hospital, and the hospital will naturally assume she's the mother, but she's only a surrogate. Without a legal document, hospitals have to look to the woman giving birth as the legal parent and decision maker of your child. But you can bypass this. In DC, you can use a pre-birth parentage order to let the hospital know that you're the legal parents. That means you not only get to make medical decision-making for your child, you have access rights to your child in the hospital, and then you get to take that child home with you later. So we send the parentage order to the anticipated delivery hospital in advance of birth. We explain to everyone who the parties are, so the hospital not only understands it's a surrogacy delivery, but that they should look to the legal parents for decision-making rights as it relates to the child once the child's born. I would be remiss to not mention our CFC Surrogacy Map. Thank you. There are no federal rules on surrogacy, so surrogacy law is handled state by state. This map is updated periodically as laws change. So if your surrogate resides out of the district, then it is critical you understand state laws before you match to a surrogate. You need to understand whether or not your parentage rights will be protected. Not every state is surrogacy friendly, and some surrogacy friendly states have additional procedural steps or restrictions. So it is very important to involve an attorney. We encourage you to check out our CFC map at surrogacymap.com. You'll find it's a comprehensive and interactive guide for surrogacy law throughout the US, and it can help you link to a local assisted reproductive technology attorney. Back to you, Diane.
Okay, thank you for that. Surrogacy 101 in DC. So we hope that you have enjoyed watching our seminar today. I want to thank in particular our guest speakers, Anna, Gaurav, and Gaurav, for today's discussion. Thank you also to our interpreter, Jen, and for all the information and resources that we've provided to you. Please don't forget the rest of this year's National Maternal and Infant Health Summit, which will be live on September 15th and 16th. Also, if you want to find out more about the medical aspects of third-party reproduction, Dr. Carter Owen from CCRM Northern Virginia will be giving a seminar on that. To learn more about Creative Family Connections, either because you're a prospective parent who might be interested in building your family, or if you're a woman who might be interested in becoming a surrogate, please visit us at creativefamilyconnections.com, and we will help you take it from there. So enjoy the summit, enjoy building a family, helping someone building a family. We hope we've provided you with information today. Taryn, thank you for making a guest appearance. This is the result of Gaurav and Gaurav's first surrogacy journey. So I think that speaks volumes right there. And thank you to all of you for participating today. And we wish you an enjoyable day. Thank you all.